Welcome to this edition of Pro House Cleaning. This is the place where we showcase the craft of professional house cleaning and how it's changing the way we understand how to clean homes and how important a clean home is for health. Today, I am glad to welcome a very special guest, a friend of mine. His name is Joe Walsh, and he's from Portland, Maine. Joe started a company called Green Clean Maine in Portland years ago and has become the premier residential cleaning service provider in that city and the surrounding area. I've been to Portland. I've met and spent time with most of his employees. They're about making it happen. And Joe is going to tell us a little bit about how he made that happen and what Green Clean Maine is doing to get through the other side of COVID-19. Before I introduce him formally, I just want to tell you that a great reputation is a good foundation for building a good company, and Joe has done a great job at that. One of his customers I've found said, "We receive monthly cleaning on a regular basis, and it is great." It's a local business effort, and so I thought, well, what a great way to present competition to the Amazons of the world and the home advisors. People appreciate local business. And she mentioned something I thought was very interesting. I appreciate their results. And that's what it's all about. Another customer said that Green Clean Maine is well organized, they communicate well, they do a wonderful and thorough job each time. That's critical. She said, I tried a few other companies beforehand, but Green Clean Maine is by far the best. So with that, welcome, Joe Walsh. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine, David. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the excellent introduction. I really appreciate the kind words. Thanks for that.
Well, you know, we've known each other a long time. I think the first time I heard your name, my daughter and I were at a convention, an ISSA ARCSI convention, and she comes up and I said, "What have you been doing?" She'd been gone all afternoon or whatever. And she says, "I've been hanging out with this guy, Joe Walsh." And I thought, Joe Walsh, you know, I'm an Eagles fan. So me and my wife grew up, and I'm like, no, he's not here, I don't think. So I'm sure you've gotten confused before, but
I have heard that one before.
but she said, he started a new business and he hadn't been doing it very long, but he is going to knock it out of the park. That's what Aubrey said about you years ago. And so tell us about those starting years, you know, 2005, 2007, you're incubating this thing. What in your efforts and mine germinated the big idea of starting a house cleaning business?
Well, I had moved to Portland, Maine, from Rhode Island, which is where I'm from originally, in 2006, because I was interested in getting into sustainable business, this idea that you could make money, but also create an environmental benefit at the same time. I kind of liked the joining of those two things. So I moved to Portland to actually help a startup publishing company develop and publish a environmental living coupon book, essentially is what it was. And I was the first full-time advertising salesperson. So it was a temporary gig. I was supposed to only be in Portland for a short period of time before moving on. At the time, I was interested in moving out to the West Coast. But I started selling advertising that summer, and I got so enmeshed in the small business community here in Portland that I found it hard to leave. Portland, Maine is a very supportive environment for small business and for startup businesses. It's a small community. You really feel like you're being supported at every step of the way. People really want to see your local business succeed. And so it felt like a great place to stick around and see what the opportunities were. So I was selling advertising, and in order to be in this coupon book, guidebook that we were making, you had to be providing an environmentally friendly service or environmentally friendly product. And so one of the services we thought we'd love to have would be a cleaning service, a green cleaning service. But I spent hours trying to track down green cleaning services, and they all told me they were too busy. So I thought, maybe there's an opportunity there. And, I was kind of looking to get into business for myself. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I actually had interest in the renewable energy sector and was thinking I would get into solar power or maybe wind power somehow get into that industry. But at the time, I think like a lot of people who get into the cleaning business, I found myself in a situation where I just needed to make money. And, I wasn't really making much money selling ads for this startup business, this startup publication. So I kind of took the idea, did a little bit of research. And I don't know if I ever told you this, David, but the way I learned to clean was actually through Gary Gorenson's program, Cleaning Business 101. Do you remember that?
Gary was great. He was down in Florida, and after he retired, he really helped hundreds and hundreds of people. He told me he would take phone calls in the middle of the night from women that would come home from a day's cleaning, just crying, didn't know what they were going to do with all the scheduling and all the management they had to do, because house cleaning is totally different from management, isn't it? And so,
It is totally different job. Yep. So Gary's program taught me how to clean basically in a professional way and introduced me to Jeff Campbell and his book about the
speed cleaning.
introduces, speed cleaning, the speed cleaning concept, and the core concepts that we kind of take for granted, or at least I do now, top to bottom, left to right, and back to front, and, the different tools to use, and the concept that you need an acidic cleaner and an alkaline cleaner and maybe a pH neutral cleaner and where to use them and that kind of thing. I mean, that all came from Gary Gorenson and Jeff Campbell for me.
Sure.
And, with Gary's basic business systems and methods and, Jeff's speed cleaning system, I started cleaning houses and just as a way to kind of make money and make a go of it, because I needed to make more than I was selling advertising. And so while I was selling advertising, I was actually starting this business. And here's the great thing about selling advertising is that it forces you to meet so many people in such a short period of time. I had the names and contact numbers for dozens and dozens, probably over 100 local businesses. And when I started my business, I already had all these connections, and I had a reputation for being polite but persistent. That was my reputation as an ad salesperson. I think you have to do that. Selling ads is the hardest job I ever did. And if I had known how hard it was going to be, I probably would have turned it down. But it taught me a lot, and helped me, really helped me to give me the motivation to get my business started. So that's kind of how we got going.
My dad often taught me that if you had a choice between being bold and being shy, you need to be bold, but you need to be kind. And I've tried to go with that through the years.
I think that's some good wisdom. And so I think it's worth, a key to my story is that I wouldn't have started this if I weren't doing it in a way that was environmentally friendly. You'll remember I was selling advertising for the Sustainable Living publication. I wanted to get into sustainable business. And so my goal starting out was to figure out how to create a net environmental benefit while doing this business. So that's all. It's a part of our DNA. It's a part of who we are. Since we've started, some of my goals and motivations have shifted. I have a family now. And so when you have a family, it has a way of changing your motivations and your goals. And, obviously an important part of my why now is providing for my family and creating a strong future for us and for our son and that kind of thing. So that changes, I think, as you grow, but the core focus of being environmentally friendly hasn't left hasn't left me as we've grown. So from the beginning, I had a vision of creating something that that was systematized, that could be big enough so that if an environmental living publication called us and said, can you advertise? We could say yes, because we had openings, because we built a system and we built a business that could grow and keep growing with the demand. And that was always my vision. I never looked at approaching it like it was just going to be me cleaning alone or me with a couple of other people. So I think that's important to note about how I approach the business.
I think that's really important, Joe, for the people listening to this broadcast, that if you're going to build any kind of a business, most people can't be Michael Jordan. They can't make that kind of money with the skill they have. And so a real key, and bringing value to the marketplace, bringing value to the community, is about teaching other people what you've learned how to do really well yourself and what you continue to learn how to do, and sharing that. We talked about a couple things before we started the broadcast today about how you're learning things and sharing that with your team. Now, you had a concept going in that you wanted to be environmentally friendly, and you've made good on that promise. You've gotten the attention of your customers and the community. But tell us now about what you're going to do different, or what changes are going to be necessary now, because the world's changed in the last 3 months.
Sure has. Yep. So a couple of things there. One is, we're not changing our commitment to environmentally friendly service. So there are environmentally preferable ways to clean in a COVID-19 environment. So the first thing that comes to mind are the disinfectants. So green cleaning has always, for me, been about how can we get the same results without the harsh chemicals. So it's not about green above all else. It's green as environmentally friendly practices as informing the decisions that you make. So we have a strong commitment to finding environmentally friendly alternatives. So for example, when it comes to disinfectants, there is a whole class of disinfectants that's relatively new that's based on hydrogen peroxide. Mm-hmm. And these are EPA registered disinfectants that are on the recommended list for being effective against emerging viral pathogens. So as we reopen our business, I turn to that list and I look for hydrogen peroxide-based cleaners as the one that I would use to disinfect, as opposed to the quats, the ammonium-based ones, or the chlorine bleach-based ones. And again, because hydrogen peroxide has been shown to be less acutely toxic to the user, so the staff, and also to the end, to the customer or the person who's in the area. So that would be an example of how green factors into this COVID-19.
Right. Now, all disinfectants have a place, and certainly you have to be cautious and careful with every one of them. You have to follow the label directions on Absolutely. All disinfectants. But tell us what you know about hydrogen peroxide, because it is less of an environmental impact negatively. Right. So what do you know about hydrogen peroxide that makes it a better choice for you?
Well, I should say, always note that hydrogen peroxide has its own acute issues. So for example, it can be very irritating to the skin. So anybody who's ever taken that 3% hydrogen peroxide that comes in the brown bottle at the drugstore and put it on your finger, maybe we used to use it for cuts, to sort of as Sure. an alternative to alcohol. You see how it fizzes up on your finger, and it can actually creates sort of a minor burn on your finger or on your skin. So, it can cause some contact dermatitis, so it's not without its risks. However, once it's done doing its thing, it just breaks down into hydrogen and water.
Right.
And so, it's benign once it's done doing the disinfecting, once it's done doing the thing it's going to do. It's environmentally benign.
It's inert after that, right?
Inert. Yep, it doesn't.
So another thing for listeners about hydrogen peroxide is that because it is in the form it is, it's not going to have, at least we don't have any record of it to be this way to date. It doesn't have any resistant properties. In other words, pathogens can't form a resistance to it. But quats, on the other hand, ammonias, they have been shown recently to be resistant, and that's a disinfection tool that they use in a lot of hospitals. You know, you're talking about different kinds of disinfection devices. A lot of people don't realize it, but a spring mousetrap is a great disinfection device, and it doesn't have to be EPA registered. So, you know, there's all kinds of ways to take care of a problem, and a lot of people don't realize that just heat. Now, heat is a great way, but it can damage a surface. So you have to be trained. You have to understand where and how to use heat properly. But heat can be a great way to reduce pathogenic loads or microbial load on a surface or a countertop.
And that's a really important point, and you're making me think of another point that's different from when I started the business. You know, I started it in 2007, and green cleaning was still at the time a little bit more of a fringe thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been called a hippy dippy, and I've been called worse, but you know, which I'm not, by the way. I just sort of I'm conscious of
I've
health.
hung out with you a little bit. I know you're not the hippie that everybody might think you are.
But thanks, David. I appreciate it. But what's different now than in 2007 is that green cleaning has become a lot more mainstream, and I think that's an incredible development. And one thing I find particularly interesting is there's this emerging consensus in the science of cleaning that there are serious health risks associated with some of the chemicals that we've traditionally used, and science is helping us find more environmentally and more environmentally benign alternatives. And I think it's a really exciting development. So the green cleaning ethos is kind of coming together with the science to support it, to say, hey, there really is a way to do this that's safer. And something else that's interesting to me is that you hear a lot of people now talking about cleaning for health and cleaning for safety. And I've recently gotten involved with the Green Schools track through ISSA. And what's really interesting is these folks who are involved with the National Green Schools movement. It's actually now called Green and Healthy Schools is the name of the national nonprofit organization. But these are folks, David, that are running massive janitorial operations at public institutions. So really big school districts, massive university systems, and they are approaching it from more of a health and safety perspective, because they realize if they adopt green cleaning principles that they're actually keeping both their employees and their the public safer. And there's science to back that up now. So I'm really encouraged by this development.
The students and the staff.
The students and the staff, right. And, you know, I'm really encouraged by this development because it's you know, as far as I'm concerned, the more the merrier. And so with my own business, when I look ahead 10 to 15 years, in my mind, we're going in the direction of green cleaning anyway, because there's so much science now to start to back up the fact that it's, you know, it's not necessary to use the chemicals we used to think we had to use. So I have to be thinking of ways to innovate, and how can I continue to set my business apart and, you know, make sure that we're still setting ourselves apart in the marketplace. And
now, speaking of that, Joe, you know, you're talking about science and finding ways to get that science in the marketplace. I know that you are a big fan of training. The reason I came to Portland was talking about colleges. Your office wasn't big enough to have a whole classroom setting, so you rented out a room in a college And for 2 days, we filled that room up and we taught you, and there's a couple of other folks there, but we talked about the science of cleaning with the IICRC HCT class. Tell me about how important you think training is going forward, especially post-COVID-19, with not just your company, but with the industry.
So I've got to say that our focus on training as a company has really helped us come back during COVID-19. So, we closed for 6 weeks and we just reopened this week. So this is the end of our first week back. And because in our company, we've established a culture of learning and we emphasize training, we were well positioned to conduct these trainings. And we actually developed, so myself and my management team developed a 4-hour training to help people re-enter the workforce. And, we actually worked, so it was myself and my management team, and we pulled a lot of material from both, from ISSA, from the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, and from materials created by Tom Stewart and Matt Ricketts over at Modern Cleaning. And I have been working with them on some stuff. And so we were kind of able to pull all of this together and make this 4-hour training. And our employees, the feedback was, we feel so confident now. We were a little unsure about coming back in the COVID environment. Now we feel confident and ready to go. And our customers have been emailing us this week. I wish I had the feedback to read off to you, but it just made my day when I had 2 different customers email to specifically say how impressed they were with how eloquent our employees could talk about their PPE. And, we did these homemade masks, everybody's wearing, and we have goggles and shoe coverings, and the employees are able to talk about that, and it instills confidence for the customer. There you go. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
There we go. I got the whole setup upstairs. Yeah.
And so we're establishing ourselves, not just me, but my employees as respected resources on how to manage during this environment. And that's because of our emphasis on training. So, when I talk about how I need to make sure that I'm evolving the business and what we offer, to me, David, this business is about training. We are in the business of training. Like, we, as a company, the value that we bring to both the customer and the employee is training. Here's the customer, they need their house cleaned. Here's the employee, they need and want to work. Okay. Insert us. We train the employee how to serve the customer, and we continue to train the employee. It's not enough just to train someone once.
It's an ongoing continuum, right?
Ongoing, continuous thing. So as a company, we continue to add value. Yes, branding is important. Yes, online booking is important. Yes, a convenient customer experience is important. But training is the foundation that will keep your customers coming back to you and keep your employees coming back to you. So
absolutely, because that's what you deliver. You can talk about green cleaning, you can talk about whatever your business model is, but unless you deliver on that, this is a service industry. And I appreciate that you're talking about the fact that it's going to be about cleaning for health more. Now, with hydrogen peroxide, for example, if you're wearing the proper PPE to protect yourself against the virus, then you're going to protect yourself against the chemicals too. And the chemicals will kill you just like the virus will, or they'll hurt you.
That's right.
And so you have to be understanding, and that's what they're designed to do. That's okay. But what we want to do is use them properly in a targeted fashion to kill the right things in the right place. And a lot of times we can just remove that bad thing, that pathogen or that soil, to a more appropriate place without having to kill everything. And so understanding how to do that and what the differences are and when to use the different methods is so critical in our training. And being nice to customers is also part of it. And so, that's what HCT is about. That's what our friends Tom and Liz are trying to teach people to do is be friendly with people. Be an authority, though. Be an authority. Don't let the customer tell us what to do. Make sure that you let the customer know you know what to do. And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. This is a network of people and community and professionals where you can find out the answer pretty quick, right, Joe?
That's right, and I think you make an important point about being friendly. I like to say in our business that it's not enough to just be friendly, though. You need to back that up with competence. So you need to make sure that you're not just friendly, but that you're able to deliver on your promises. And your promises is the scope of work that you tell your clients you're going to deliver. And the only way to be that authority, the only way to be that expert is to educate yourself. And that's what we're all about. And
well, before we close up here today, is there anything else you'd like to share with your community in Portland, with the industry at large? Any closing thoughts?
Well, a couple of things, I guess, just to maybe what I'm working on at the moment. So, we just booted the business back up, and it's been, like I said, it's been a tremendous week, really backed by that training that we did, which really helped us move along. And I have been doing a lot of advocacy for small businesses. So I've gotten involved in my community as a advocate for small businesses. So by speaking to press and by talking to other small business owners and helping us support each other and guide people to the right resources that they need. As a cleaning business, we're lucky enough to be an essential service right now, but not everybody is in that position. And there's a lot, some of the aid programs that have come out, leaves a lot to be desired for certain business types. So it's been an opportunity to really position ourselves as a leader in the community. So I've been working on that, and I recommend that anyone in this business, try and be an advocate in your local community whenever you can for other small businesses, because you're paying it forward, and that's going to come back to you in spades. And then I've also been working on the training project with my friends Tom Stewart and Matt Ricketts and Liz Trotter and Janice Stewart over at Modern Cleaning. So we've been working to develop a program for house cleaning, professional house cleaning program to train people in what we're talking about, David.
Exactly.
How do you become a professional in this business?
And so for those that may be watching this and don't know those names offhand, Tom Stewart, Janice Stewart wrote a book with me called The Professional House Cleaning Technician's Manual. And there you go. So
I keep it on my desk, David.
There we go. It's a great reference tool. It's not something you read like a John Grisham novel, but it does have a lot of valuable information. I'm not sure what you can do with a John Grisham novel. Somebody once said, I believe Jim Rohn, you can't learn anything from the book you don't read. So a lot of what we've been talking about today is in that book. And I would highly recommend that people plug into that program that's coming up. In fact, I believe you can already register for it and take advantage of it. You can learn more about that at moderncleaning.com.
That's correct. And, we're working real hard to make it accessible and make it affordable, but also make sure it's packed with good content. And, I also need to really thank you, David, for being such a proponent of this industry and for being so supportive of my business and of my growth as an entrepreneur, and also helping to write that book, because I've taken the HCT class twice myself, and it's jam-packed with so much great information. And Bruce is such an incredible instructor. I think of him like my cleaning professor. So, that's Bruce Vance, and he's teaching the HCT class that is now also being offered online.
He's one of the authors of that book as well. And
Yeah.
He has a degree in the world of chemistry and so forth. He told me he would shake his head coming out of organic chemistry classes sometimes, but and so a lot of his early education has served him well. And like many of us, he had a mother who loved him and really, really nurtured him to be the go-getter that he is. Well, I sure appreciate you talking with me, Joe, today. And, our interest is really bringing to light what professional house cleaning is, and helping people know who they can trust in their community and in the industry. So
Yes.
thank you all for watching this edition of Professional House Cleaning, the Pro House Cleaning channel, where we talk about the people and the process of professionally cleaning homes so they are safe, inviting places to be.